Tonight, getting ready to return to near normal. Businesses prepare for the further easing of COVID restrictions from Monday.
The restrictions being lifted not before time, just disappointed they ever came in the first place.
Those in high-risk categories fear being left behind. Also making the headlines, accused of being a US fugitive. Nicholas Rossi arrives at court in a wheelchair and is remanded in custody.
In sport, Rangers write to the SFA following referee Kevin Clancy's performance at Pittodrie.
And dramatic scenes as action hots up in the streets of Glasgow's Gotham. I'm Kellyanne Woodland in Edinburgh.
And I'm John Mackay in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6.
Good evening. Monday heralds another change in the easing of COVID restrictions. Nightclubs will reopen and large indoor events will be allowed for the first time this year. It will come as a huge relief to the hospitality industry and those employed within it.
One firm has offered £500 loans to its staff to help them cope with the financial losses over the festive period. But while some might be celebrating, those living in the highest risk category feel their lives and circumstances continue to be ignored. Our reporter Ivana Holland has the story.
As Scotland once again faces the prospect of a less restricted society come Monday, how do the public feel about a return to the so-called normal?
It's different since the start, we don't even know what normal was, so what normality, it's just
the new
madness.
normal.
Yeah, I think folk are just starting to treat it as if it no longer exists, and we need to still take it pretty seriously.
Be going out and mixing more now that it's allowed?
No,
not really. We kind of keep ourselves to ourselves.
We think it's more of a risk going out than it is staying at home.
I will still play safe. I will wear my mask, and I will try to, it's still not out there yet.
It's been on for ages, all the different coronaviruses and then Omicron and that, so I would think so, yeah. But Monday would be all right, yeah.
These Perspex glass dividers can come down as social distancing and table service rules are scrapped. And whilst there's a willingness to extend the Christmassy feel to encourage people back in the door, businesses say there's no way to replicate the expected income from December.
We have to look forward, as we've done for the last 2 years, just keep putting one foot in front of the other. We're looking forward to the Six Nations, very, very fortunate to have Edinburgh and France. They're two really strong games, but that's just Edinburgh. There's Glasgow, there's St Andrews, there's Bridge of Allen, there's Aberdeen, there's the rest of the country that don't have the Six Nations to look forward to. So yes, the restrictions being lifted not before time, just disappointed they ever came in the first place.
The hourly paid staff at Signature Group have been offered loans of £500. That's to help them see them through the lean month of January. The restrictions that were put in place on Boxing Day for venues selling alcohol meant that a lot of the pay and tips for those staff were cut. Meeting up with more than 3 households at a time is permitted from Monday, but those in the highest risk category are begging not to be forgotten.
I suppose it's good to hear that things for people are moving back to normal. And I use that word loosely, I don't like that word normal, but it's hard for us to see and hear that people are just kind of... Katie's words to me was, what did you say? She just feels that people have forgotten about her. And that's really hard because that's coming up to 2 years now. I'm so sorry, I'm getting so emotional. But we're having this chat before we came on to, that's why she was upset, because there's still so many things we'd like to do, and I've kept her safe for nearly 2 years, and we can't give up now.
The wearing of masks to the shops and on public transport remain in place, unlike in England, where it's only required on the tube.
Absolutely, complacency is a danger. If we stop doing what we did before, then there's a real danger that we go backwards rather than forwards.
We're told the peak of Omicron has passed and a return to full lockdowns unlikely. But tricky moments could still lie ahead. Ivana Holland, STV News.
Well, joining us now is Scotland's National Clinical Director, Professor Jason Leach. Professor Leach, thanks for speaking to us. Most COVID restrictions ease in a matter of days. Are you optimistic?
I am, Kellyanne, and good evening. I'm hopeful. I think this is a good weekend into Monday where quite a lot of things will drop away. The indoor limits, the limits on hospitality that have remained. But you'd expect me to say this, wouldn't you? I also would just implore people to be careful. So get your vaccination even over this weekend. Test before you meet people and follow the guidance of wherever it is you're going. But the peak of Omicron is behind us. Still too many cases, too many people in hospital. But yes, I think this is a hopeful weekend.
So you're hopeful, but today, though, reports of a new Omicron variant, 53 cases. How concerning is that?
Yeah, not one to worry about yet. We have two categories. Variants of concern, which are the kind of bad ones, and variants under investigation, and that's what this one is. This looks as though it's just a slight variation on Omicron. The case is about 2,000 globally, not behaving any differently from the original Omicron, so not something we should worry about. But it is a cautious moment, isn't it, where you realise this virus may not be done with us. But I don't want to take away from that first question, because I am hopeful that Omicron is reaching the end. We're coming out the other end, but the pandemic's not over. It's certainly not over in Germany, who had their biggest numbers ever yesterday, and other parts of the world who are really struggling with Omicron.
Now, let's talk about the Test and Protect app. Is it worth having anymore? Less than 900,000 people are still using it. And that's a huge drop from the number who downloaded it initially.
Yeah, well, I still have it in my pocket right here with a cameraman and a sound man, and if we are positive but we're distanced, it would recognise. So I think it is still one of the mechanisms by which not much cost to us, not too much inconvenience to us. I think it's one of these baseline mitigations that we should keep, a bit like a face covering in a crowded place, or taking a test before you go to meet your family, or washing your hands when you arrive at the STV studio. So some of these things I think will stay for a little bit longer, and we'll gradually remove some of the others, as you can see us doing on Monday.
You talk about face coverings there, and that does take us to our next question. What about face masks in schools? Are they here for the long term, or do you think we'll drop them soon?
I hope they're not here for the long term. Nobody wants them any longer than they're absolutely necessary for. When you have a tricky question, and face coverings in schools is a tricky question because the science is complex, you set up a group of clever people to give you the answer. And we have that. We have an education advisory group chaired by Linda Bald, who many of your viewers will have got to know over this period, with educationalists, public health experts, parents, unions, and they look at the mitigations in schools, the bubbles, the arrival times, the departure times, and face coverings. They will meet again next week, and they'll consider again the evidence around these for our state of the pandemic, our version right now, how many we've got, how many kids have got it, and they'll make some judgments. They'll give advice to us. We'll then give that advice to the First Minister and the Cabinet, and they'll choose.
All right, Professor Leitch, as ever, thanks very much for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.
A woman from Fife who believes she is due £19,000 in missed pension payments says she's angry that so many people haven't been given the money they're owed. Jan Tiernan has spent years fighting to be reimbursed by the Department for Work and Pensions.
It's estimated around 134,000 pensioners weren't paid correctly. Most of those affected are women, some of whom have died without knowing they were due more. Susan Ripple reports.
This is the paperwork Jan has accumulated over the last 3 years. Dozens of letters to the Department for Work and Pensions, pleading for the money she's due. She only realised she hadn't been paid enough in her pension after watching a TV show. She believes she's been underpaid by around £19,000 and has so far only received around a tenth of that.
Really angry. It's no just the £30 for me, it's the £30 for all the people who really, really needed it. And that's wrong. It's money that we should have had to spend the way we wanted to spend it. They made a mistake, and the maladministration in that office, the DWP, at that time and since that time has been scandalous.
And Jan isn't the only one. The Department for Work and Pensions estimates it underpaid around 134,000 people more than £1 billion in state pension entitlement. And some of the errors date back as far as 1985. A Westminster parliamentary committee was set up to look into the issue. The chair has branded it as shambles.
In the DWP, there are lots of different IT systems that aren't really talking to each other. And when there's a question on some of these pensions, particularly for women of this age group, they weren't talking to each other, and it required a very experienced member of staff to try and work out what was needed. When women began to realise there might be a problem and ask questions, the department was a bit slow picking up that this was not just a few women, but actually much more systemic.
People are being encouraged to seek help if they think they've been affected.
DWP have identified 134,000 people that they think that are eligible for this. If you haven't heard already, they're probably going to get in touch. But if you really think that you've been underpaid, it's right to go and get in touch with them. You might also want to get in touch with your MP if you're finding that a bit slower, or people at Age Scotland can help if you call our helpline on 0800 12 44 222.
The DWP says resolving the issue is a priority for the government. Susan Ripple, STV News, Glasgow.
A man has appeared in court and denied being an international fugitive who was discovered in a Scottish hospital whilst being treated for COVID. He denied being 34-year-old Nicholas Rossi during a hearing. However, he was remanded after prosecutors described him as being a significant flight risk.
Authorities in the US want to extradite Nicholas Rossi over an allegation of rape and sexual assaults and say he used as many as 16 different aliases. Our chief reporter Sharon Frew has the latest.
Under police escort, the accused arrived at court in an ambulance. The man wanted by US authorities wore an oxygen mask and an oximeter to measure his blood saturation as he sat before the sheriff. He was wearing pyjamas and slippers. The 34-year-old was wearing the same when he was rearrested in Glasgow. The man concealed his face with a towel last night as he was taken from the flat in a wheelchair. Officers moved his oxygen tank onto the waiting van first before lifting him inside. The court was told police and paramedics spent a total of 7 hours inside the flat in the Woodlands area of the city. The accused, who used the name Arthur Knight when he was treated for COVID at Glasgow's Queen Elizabeth University Hospital, was first arrested on the 13th of December. He appeared in court via video link from his hospital bed just before Christmas. He was then released on bail and told to make himself available for inspections at his home from police.
The sheriff was told at a previous hearing Nicholas Rossi said he couldn't attend court because he needed to spend several more weeks in hospital. He was discharged the next day on Christmas Eve. He was rearrested last night over fears he was a flight risk. Prosecutors in the United States believed he used 10 to 16 different aliases, and he is wanted by Interpol in connection with an alleged rape in 2008.
This case began in my jurisdiction in Utah, and it's required the collaboration and the cooperation of United States federal authorities, state of Utah authorities, and now Scottish authorities and Scottish courts to be able to go through the process to bring Mr. Knight or Mr. Rossi or Mr. Oliverdian, whichever name he chooses, to bring him back to Utah.
When he was asked if he was Nicholas Rossi in court, the man started to cough and replied no. Following his arrest last night, he was assessed by a doctor who said he was fit to appear in court and can continue oxygen therapy and receive treatment in prison. He will return to court next month. Sharon Frew, STV News.
OK, on to other stories across Scotland, and hundreds of women in NHS Lothian may have missed breast cancer screening because of an administrative error. Those who have an increased chance of developing the condition should receive breast imaging at 12, 18 and 24-month intervals. However, the Health Board has admitted that as many as 240 patients had not received the correct appointment. NHS Lothian has apologised and is now arranging new appointments.
The Chief Executive of the Scottish Environment Protection Agency has resigned following conduct allegations. Terry Ahern was appointed to the role in April 2015. CEPA says it takes conduct allegations very seriously.
The M8 motorway remains partially closed after a crash involving a heavy goods vehicle. Another car was also involved, with the HGV hitting the central reservation near the Cumbernauld Road interchange just before midday. The road was initially closed to all traffic but has now partly reopened.
A review into audiology services across Scotland has been launched by the Scottish Government. It comes after a report in December last year outlined a series of errors in treatment provided by NHS Lothian. It found that certain failures led to 155 of the 1,100 patients treated between 2009 and 2018 being identified as deaf years later than they should have been.
And tourism bosses are using the lure of the Loch Ness Monster to draw visitors back to the Highlands after the pandemic. A new promotional video has been launched focusing on the legend of the Loch and the ever-elusive Nessie.
An app which aims to provide a one-stop shop for those looking for support from homeless services has launched in Glasgow. The online portal allows charity workers and service users to access information on dozens of good causes around the city. Sasha Spratt reports.
Centres like these across Glasgow provide free support to those struggling with homelessness. Today, flu and COVID jabs are being offered. But with dozens of hubs across the city offering different services, those in need can find it difficult to know where to go and when. Victor visits a variety of places.
I'm actually housed, but obviously, aftercare is very, very important. And linking all these services together is very, very important. Services aren't communicating the way they might have done in the past, or there isn't any sort of central forum for people to engage and communicate with each other. So something with that electronics is wonderful.
The new Street Support Network app has been launched, providing a single place to find services, providing support for people in need, but also street teams who offer advice.
Usually we go down very similar avenues in terms of what we offer the clients that we work with. I think it just kind of is there, and it can offer maybe some different things we haven't thought about. There's a page for activities, for example. I think some of our guys often comment on how bored they are. A lot of time we get calls about where's open for food provision, clothing. So it just means that we have accurate information that we can provide when needed.
The app has been in place for some time in other UK cities. 80 organisations are currently mapped out, but there are hopes the network will grow.
Glasgow's got a really good history of organisations working together and working in partnership, and this brings us together virtually to really share resources, share intelligence and have a better response to people on the street.
The portal can be accessed using phones or on a computer, with hubs providing online access for those who don't have their own connection. Sasha Spratt, STV News, Glasgow.
The weekend sport starts tonight. Here's Raman.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Good evening. Rangers have written to the SFA to raise concerns over 8 refereeing decisions made by Kevin Clancy during the match against Aberdeen on Wednesday. One of them is Ryan Kent's red card. Clancy showed the forward a second yellow following this incident. Meanwhile, Arbroath's midfielder John Lundstrom says the team will give Stirling Albion the utmost respect when they meet in the Scottish Cup tonight.
I've been in the position of Stirling are in. When I was at Oxford, we had Premier League teams in the FA Cup and knocked them out. So we know how important it'll be for them to come to Ibrox. It's a massive occasion for them. I know if I was in their shoes, I'd be ready to go. So we've got to match that, definitely.
Ange Postecoglou has ruled out a quick return for Kyogo. The Celtic manager says the Japanese international will be sidelined for a number of weeks. Postecoglou has also spoken of his delight of signing Matt O'Reilly. The midfielder has joined the club in a £1.5 million transfer from MK Dons. He was sold on a move to Celtic following a call from Ange Postecoglou. Now Matt O'Reilly is keen to play a major role at his new surroundings. The midfielder becomes the club's 5th signing in this window, and he's a player they have scouted for a while.
I became aware of him obviously when I joined the club in the summer, and he was one of the ones that we're kind of looking at, and didn't quite work out then, and then followed his progress through the first half of this season with MK Dons, and he's had a really good season, strong season, and I just see some really good football attributes in him that I think will fit in well with what we're doing here.
O'Reilly will start training with the squad from next week, but one player who will be missing for a considerable time is Kyogo. The forward sustained a hamstring injury last month.
Suffice to say, it's not going to be a quick return. Again, reluctant to put any time frame on it because of just for the player himself. I think it's unfair that I do that, but we're still looking at a number of weeks at the moment. Hopefully we'll get some clarity. There's still some things they want to see whether it settles down, but certainly we're looking at a number of weeks.
Following their win over Hibs in the league, Celtic's focus has switched to the Scottish Cup. They take on Alloa in the 4th round tomorrow. Well, the Scottish Cup often throws up a David versus Goliath tie, and this time it's the turn of Auchinleck Talbot. The Ayrshire side, who play in the 6th tier of Scottish football, face Hearts. Tickets for the match sold out within an hour, and as Ronnie Charters has been finding out, everyone at the club is eagerly anticipating the tie.
Known for his finishing touch, both on the pitch and in the garage. Auchinleck Talbot striker Brian Boylan preparing for Saturday's showdown by cracking on with the day job. And as the Ayrshire side prepare to welcome Hearts to Beechwood Park tomorrow, Boylan is eyeing the mother of all cup shocks.
Well, the nerves are starting to kick in, I suppose. It's probably going to be one of the biggest games I've played in my footballing career. I think all the fans are expecting us to go down and do a job, and we've got to remember that they're probably the 3rd best team in Scotland at the moment. You've just got to go out with the mentality that you're play the game, you're there to win, try your best, don't leave anything in the park, no regrets, and you never know what can happen.
Boylan is no stranger to scoring in big games. This last-minute winner against fierce rivals Cumnock, the pick of the bunch. And the 32-year-old is eyeing a dream goal on Saturday.
I've been scoring that goal, whether it be the winning goal or even just to score a goal, the feeling it would be to get that, it would be absolutely brilliant for me.
Well done, well done. It's gone all right. Hoping to steer Auchinleck to a famous win is manager Tommy Sloan. Having been at the club for nearly 20 years, he's lifted 7 junior cups and won 7 league titles.
Oh, there's a bit of excitement, certainly. I know I'm excited about it. Having Hearts coming down to Beechwood is, you'd never have thought it actually. The amazing thing, it's the 3rd time in 10 years we've played Hearts, but them coming to Beechwood this year is really special. Certainly, that's a dream tie.
Tickets for the match were snapped up within an hour, with Hearts getting an allocation of over 1,000. Sloan admits the buzz has been palpable since the draw was made.
You can certainly feel it. The fact there was a bit of, I think a lot of them thought we gave Hearts too many tickets actually. They could have sold a lot more down at our bit. So, aye, look, the excitement's certainly generating.
And the only thing better than facing Hearts with your teammates is doing it with your family, as uncle and nephew Craig and Robbie McCracken can vouch for.
Only 5 years younger than me, so I've not really been able to watch him play when he was younger because I was also playing at the same time, so it's good to have him in the same team.
I used to go and watch Talbot every Saturday, and it was great to see Craig when he played, and it always kind of inspired me to play with Craig when I was a bit older than that, so it was brilliant.
Well, come tomorrow afternoon, these stands will be packed with Auchinleck fans as they look to pull off the greatest result in the club's history. 58 places separate Hearts and Auchinleck in the league system, but the boys in yellow and black will be hoping Beechwood Park tomorrow will be the site of a Scottish Cup miracle. Ronnie Charters, STV News, Auchinleck.
Well, here are this weekend's Scottish Cup ties. St Mirren are away to Ayr United. Dumbarton host Premiership opposition in Dundee. There should be a cracker at Rugby Park as Kilmarnock welcome Dundee United. Motherwell are at home to Morton, while Partick Thistle take on Airdrieonians. Rugby news, and Glasgow Warriors head coach Danny Wilson expects his players to bounce back in a positive fashion when they face La Rochelle in the Champions Cup tomorrow. The Warriors, who suffered a heavy defeat in their pool game against Exeter last weekend, will guarantee qualification to the knockout stages with a bonus point win against the French side at Scotstoun.
If we can bounce back very quickly and get a win out of the game on the weekend, if you said to me before the campaign, you've got La Rochelle and Exeter in Europe, and you get 2 home wins and qualify, I'd have, you know what I mean, definitely taken that. So we're still on track to do what we plan to do.
Finally, in golf, Scott Jamieson remains the leader following the second round of the Abu Dhabi Championship. After his course record round of 63 yesterday, Jamieson carded a 74 in challenging conditions today. He's on 7 under par, 1 shot ahead of the chasing pack. And that is all the sport for me tonight, folks. I'll see you again next week.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Now let's get the weekend weather from Sean.
Well, a little bit mixed out there today. In some spots it's still been feeling a little bit chilly, but in the west it's an awful lot milder, and we've seen a lot more cloud around today. Now through the weekend we're looking at a similar split. Largely cloudy conditions in the west, some sunny spells in the east, and also some sunshine in the north at times. But let's have a look at what's in store this weekend where you live.
The outlook for the day is calm and settled. TUI Blue Hotels sponsor STV Weather.
Well, for us, I'm afraid we're going to hang on to a lot of cloud as we go through the weekend. We're back in that much milder air. Wait until we see the overnight numbers for tonight. Drizzle outbreaks of rain through the night across northern parts of Argyll, northern Stirlingshire, and also the Highlands. Some of that moving into the Glasgow, Inverclyde, Renfrewshire area a little bit later on. But look at those temperatures. We're back to about 8 or 9 degrees in the Hebrides. Back to those silly sort of numbers overnight in January. 8, 9 degrees. Bit high. Now for the time being into tomorrow, we've still got that cloud around, but watch this, it starts to thin and break up a wee bit through the morning into the afternoon, and you can see the thickest cloud across northwestern parts and particularly damp across the Highlands into northern Argyll tomorrow. But further south we've got some cloud breaks. Let's take a closer look at that. So tomorrow across likes of Fort William, Lochaber, Mull, Col and Tiree, into likes of Oban, the Lorne area, we've got shower outbreaks of rain. It will be quite misty over higher ground as well. Temperatures about 9 or 10 degrees Celsius. Come further south of Loch Lomond, we start to come into some breaks in that cloud. So the likes of Dumbartonshire, southern Stirlingshire, across Glasgow, Renfrewshire, North Lanarkshire, some sunshine here. Mainland Ayrshire also seeing some sunny spells, but fair amount of cloud here. Eastern parts of Arran hopefully having a little bit of sunshine breaking through as well. A lot of cloud around on Sunday, cloudier conditions, and there will be some outbreaks of rain and windy in the west too.
TUI Blue Hotels sponsor STV Weather.
And finally, we've heard a lot about the filming of Batgirl this week as Glasgow doubles for Gotham. But overnight in the city centre, the drama really intensified.
From fake explosions to buildings being set on fire, the action on set of the blockbuster kept residents entertained until the early hours of the morning, as Polly Bartlett reports.
Escaping from a burning building on Parney Street, Batgirl Leslie Grace is seen filming in costume for the first time as Glasgow doubles for Gotham City. She was joined by co-star Jacob Scipio, the pair narrowly avoiding an explosion in the most dramatic scene we've seen yet. Earlier in the day, things were slightly calmer as Batgirl shopped for groceries in the Trongate area of the city. Shop fronts have been transformed and fake snow decorates the pavements. Batgirl Leslie Grace is all set to star opposite Michael Keaton, who will play the Dark Knight more than 3 decades after being the first Batman on the big screen. Filming is expected to continue this evening into the early hours of the morning. On the set of this Warner Brothers blockbuster, things are really hotting up.
Good to see Glasgow getting back to its normal on a Friday night.
A bit wild. Anyway, that's it from us. We're back on Monday. Bye-bye.
Good night.